It is 5:30. This is the Northampton Conservation Commission meeting for the 26th of March. Read the standard introductory statement. The Commission is a group of unpaid volunteers who work to protect the natural environment of Northampton. We are concerned with the 8 interests defined in the Wetlands Protection Act of the Commonwealth as listed up here. Our duties also include open space acquisition and management, but primarily we focus on carrying out the provisions of the Wetlands Protection Act and Northampton City Wetlands Ordinance. Those are the tools that we have. We operate in a way that's consistent with open meeting law requirements. Meeting dates, times, and agendas are posted in advance, and we invite public comment during our meetings. However, we ask the public limit their comments to issues that are within our purview. Today's agenda has 4 items: Smith College relocation of a tennis court and creation of a synthetic playing field on the existing site of their athletic fields. Tofino Associates notice of intent continued from prior meeting. Both of those 2 items were continued from prior meetings. Request for an extension of an order of conditions for the city for the construction of the rail trail, Look Park to Florence section, and a request for an extension of an order of conditions for Office of Planning Development for construction of the rail trail, Florence to the Williamsburg town line. First item, approval of minutes from March 12th. Did we get a copy of those?
I just got those this afternoon.
Yeah,
I've been pretty busy, and Alita's been out a couple days, so she got those today. So maybe we should do that at the next meeting.
Okay, we'll continue that until next time. All right.
Move we table till the next meeting, minutes of March 12th.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First item, notice of intent by Smith College for the relocation of the tennis court, creation of a synthetic playing field, and the paving of an existing gravel parking lot. Work is proposed to take place in the Riverfront Area off College Lane at Smith College. Someone here from Smith? Yes?
Yes, we're here.
Finally.
Finally. I need to say it won't last, but I'm glad we're finally back here with the issue resolved with the city engineer and stormwater permit. Took a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but they got it resolved apparently to his satisfaction. So we were back before you to finish up the land and thank you, my engineer.
Okay.
Again, for the record, my name is Nathan Collins. I am the project manager with Tofino Associates. We are the engineer working with Smith College on the redevelopment of their athletic field campus. Last time we met, I think back in late January, maybe early February. I do want to thank you guys for your patience and giving us continuance. I had given an overview of the project. I can do that again if you think that's necessary.
Probably a good idea.
Okay, sure. Just talk briefly about existing conditions. For those of you that aren't familiar with the site, there's an existing natural turf field, which is the area of concern, the area that's in the resource to the river, as well as the existing gravel parking lot that we're going to pave as part of the project as well. Just a quick discussion in terms of drainage. Currently right now there's 3 discharge points on the site. One that's through a 24-inch brick culvert that collects runoff from the upper area and also portions of this tennis court and croquet court area here. There's also another discharge point that collects runoff from these tennis courts and a small portion of the natural turf fields. The final outlet is the collection point for runoff from the natural turf field that runs over land to a series of catch basins that ultimately tie into that discharge point. What the college is proposing is to replace that existing natural turf field with a synthetic turf field for multiple reasons. One main reason is to stay competitive with the other colleges in their region. So what we have is a new synthetic turf field size for women's lacrosse and field hockey. Has a width of 230 feet and an overall length of about 360 feet.
What's the dimensions of the existing turf field?
They currently stripe it for 180-foot width for field hockey. I don't recall, do you know they don't have the actual required width for, or the recommended width for women's lacrosse, and I don't know what they currently stripe it for. Right now, they're restricted by an outdated lighting system that they use. They can't extend it as wide as they would like.
If you look at that, do you see how the new one is going into the tennis court on the?
Yeah.
And then if you look at that, I don't know, it's about, come down maybe a quarter of the way.
Yeah, to give you an
That's-
idea,
That's the original quarter of the way. or something.
these are
The
The
light
lights.
stanchions?
the existing light stations, right? So
Oh,
with
yeah, you can see it.
with the increase in size, what we're required to do is relocate one of the existing tennis courts. So the idea would be to saw cut this pavement, remove this asphalt in this area, and relocate it as part of a reconstruction project adjacent to these existing tennis courts. Correct.
So you're doing more of the croquet.
Right.
Yes.
In addition, again, the footprint of this parking area does not change. We're just formalizing it with asphalt striping. This area does change slightly. We're adding a bus turnaround. Currently, right now, there's no way for buses to access in and out easily. They can get in there, however, it becomes a nuisance when they're trying to drop athletes off. So we, again, formalize this parking along the edge of this existing tennis court. We're keeping all of the existing vegetation. There's a row of arborvitaes along this entire edge. The arborvitaes that will be removed over here, we're going to replant all those as well as do supplemental planting to screen this tennis court. This access drive will tie into an existing area that the school currently uses for maintenance. This is a gravel drive that will remain gravel. Any other items on layout? In addition, right now there's really no walkways or pedestrian circulation in the site. Adjacent to this parking area, we are providing an ADA compliant walkway that'll connect all these parking spots to your main entrances for the site, both tennis here as well as the actual athletic facility here. And we are around half of the perimeter of the field, including a 4-foot wide walkway that'll tie in again to an existing gravel path that's along the river's edge, or the top of the riverbank.
And you're adding a detention basin, right?
Well, I'll go over that now in terms of the drainage plan which I have with me. One of the major changes that we've gone through since the last time we presented.
Here, you can show that.
Yeah, sorry. Drainage is on this one, sorry. We originally were proposing a detention pond located in the center of this cul-de-sac. We had included a 25-foot vegetated strip with approximately 1.5 feet deep retaining wall with a direct outlet into the 24-inch existing drain line. Working with the DPW and the stormwater engineer, he had requested that we investigate some LID technologies for development, low impact development. It's one of the new stormwater regulations is for engineers to look at that in more detail. So what we've done is we've actually changed that detention pond into what's referred to as a bioretention area. It'll still have a slight depression, but underneath that slight depression will be approximately 4 feet of a granular material that will help water drain vertically into a series of 6-inch drains that will ultimately overflow into this existing system, meaning there's not going to be an open culvert in that detention pond. In addition, that bioretention area will be landscaped with shrubs and a single tree, and I'll go over that in more detail. What that does is we continue to maintain our reduction in flow off-site. It's pretty similar to existing for the 2-year storm. I think we're at 3.7 pre, 3.69 post. But it significantly reduces the flow into the actual drainage systems for the 10, 50, and 100-year storm events. We do that 2 ways. One, attenuation through that bioretention area, all that storage underneath, as well as the storage underneath the synthetic turf field. One other thing we changed from our original submission is we submitted our stormwater analysis in a software that wasn't familiar to the Conservation Commission or to the review engineer. So we did provide a revised analysis in HydroCAD, which is a software a little more comfortable. And again, we worked directly with Doug McDonald, including a meeting with him and the town engineer to go over the drainage changes that we made. That is really the summary of my presentation. What I'd like to do is, I understand talking to Doug that the Commission still had a few questions as it relates to the project, and I'd like to try to answer those for you.
I have a question. Convince me why that field isn't just the same as the parking lot. Why it isn't an impervious surface.
Sure.
And where is the water going that drains onto that field?
Sure. The water that drains onto the field will drain vertically through that stone subbase. The stone that we're proposing is not the same stone that you would use as a dense graded crushed stone underneath asphalt. It has a pretty high fine content and it compacts very tightly, which is a good subbase for pavement. The stone that we use has less than 2% fines passing the 200 SIP, so it's an open graded mix. And based on, again, over 75 fields that we have done, and including some testing that we have done on these fields, we're confident that it behaves the way we model it. We did revise our model again working with Doug, so he was a little more comfortable with it, is we took originally we had a longer time of concentration that talks about the flow of the water through the stone, which is based off a study done by the University of New Hampshire. They did a study on the gravel underneath porous asphalt, which is very similar to the material that we use under our synthetic turf fields. They propose a time of concentration of approximately 19 minutes per inch as water flows through. So typically how we model these is, again, as the water drains vertically, it also has to flow horizontally because there's a slope on the subgrade. Based on the test pits we did on this site, we have perk rates of less than 2 minutes an inch, which works out to 30 inches an hour. We're conservative because that base is compacted to get a stable subgrade. We use 1.02 inches an hour, so we're 29 inches per hour more conservative in terms of our infiltration rate, and we're still, again, exceeding or decreasing the off-site flow in that system.
So you're expecting how much water to go
All
into
of
the ground?
All of it.
There's no drain coming up.
Oh no, there is. I'm sorry.
Because there's a membrane under the stuff, right?
Correct. How it's constructed is you dig down to your subgrade, approximately a foot. You'll roll that with a roller, trying to achieve about 90% compaction. On top of that subgrade, you lay a geotextile, a filter fabric, a woven fabric. It's very porous, and that's what you construct your stone base on top of. And then your synthetic turf gets laid on top of that stone base.
So you basically created, in the subgrade, you created a non-permeable layer, pretty much.
I would disagree.
Really? Even though you've rolled it and you put it
Correct. That soil today, as it sits 1 foot underneath that that finish elevation is probably greater than 90% compaction.
So when,
And we've talked to because we've had this question come up to us before, and we've talked to geotechnical engineers that have confirmed that. And what we do as part of a QA/QC process, when this eventually does get constructed, is we do flood testing in all the layers as we build them. So we'll come out with a water truck, do a falling head test on the subgrade once it's compacted. Then once that passes, we'll put the stone in and then do another falling head test there. Currently, right now, there's not. ASTM is working on an actual standard test to test the subgrade. Right now, we rely on flood testing or Mother Nature. For example, if that, oftentimes during the construction period, we have the subgrade ready for turf, but turf may not be at the site yet. And if we have a storm event, we're able to confirm that the system is behaving like we anticipated. But again, based on our experience, I would bet money that when it rains, a 10-year storm event, and you pop a cover on this final drain manhole, you won't see water in it, probably till a day out, if any at all, depending on the amount of rain that you have. The flat panel drains that we use are more for your consecutive storms, you know, your 2 or 3 day storm events that sometimes occur in the spring and even summer.
You have a detail on that? On the
On the
flat,
cross section?
no, on the flat panel, right?
Yes, right there, the field under drain detail.
Well, I can see here, but
Yep.
you have what does it look like? I mean,
It looks like that. It's just a product. It's a plastic. There's 30 different types of manufacturers who make the product. We use a product, really 2 that we're comfortable with. A product called J-Drain and a product called Multiflow. We use a 12-inch, so it's 12 inches, probably about 1 inch in height, and then that gets wrapped with a filter fabric.
and it's what, hollow or perforated or
Correct.
or something.
Yep.
And
It's really an overflow mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, we've done fields where we have sandy soils, perks of less than 2 minutes an inch, which we do have here, but we didn't want to assume that it's, you know, a beach, where we haven't put an inch of drainage underneath our fields, and we don't have drainage issues. We did 2 fields in Nantucket like that, again because of the soil conditions out there, and 2 in Franklin because we had similar conditions.
Nioplast, Nyloplast, that's just a manufacturer?
That's a manufacturer. It's a PVC structure, right? Plastic.
so
How can, with a ductile iron frame
Frame
on
and grain.
top?
Yep. Just gets put right on top of it.
All right.
so what chemical constituents will you expect them to come off of this field?
From the runoff,
From the turf, yeah.
none that exceed mass drinking water standards or EPA drinking water standards. And
Well,
we've done all that testing too.
even if it doesn't succeed, then what kind of things are coming off?
Low concentrations of zinc are the biggest concern for most commissions that we talk to. Again, there's been numerous studies done on the levels that do runoff, and they're well below the standard levels of zinc that you find in your standard soil in this area.
Is that from the glue?
No, it's from the infill, and we're not even.
The infill of the rocks?
What's that?
The rocks?
No. The synthetic turf field itself has a
Yeah.
pile height, and then there's a sand and rubber infill that gets put in. It hasn't been finalized that they'll actually put infill here because the product that we're using is a mix of your polyethylenes in a thicker thatch that they put on the bottom. A lot of schools, specifically for field hockey, don't like the infill because as you shoot, sometimes you get what they call fly up. But it's mainly from the SBR rubber, the recycled rubber, recycled tires infill. It's the same rubber that's on the track that's at Smith College.
But the rubber on the track is actually held together, right? This infill will be small granules that kind of go in between the fibers of the...
Right, but in terms of their diameter or their gradation, the size isn't different from on the track. Just the difference is the track is bound with the latex, so it's not loose, but it's still the same material.
Right. So, could we expect to see some of these granules actually go out the drain? Is there a way that these granules are going to be kept on the field?
On the field.
As opposed to kind of scattered all over?
Right. The only way these particles will migrate, because of their specific gravity, they will not float in water. We've actually designed these in floodplains, is through humans picking it up and throwing it if they wanted to. But all of the nyloplast catch basins that we have do have sumps built into them as well. But again, there's no, in this particular design, there's no open grates within that synthetic turf field.
So if you get a flood, if this field floods,
Mm-hmm.
are they gonna, is all that stuff will flow down, right?
It will not.
It
It will not float.
I would disagree with that. I've seen floods move logs, I've seen it move boulders,
Sure.
and
I can,
it won't move
sure.
all that stuff.
I can provide you literature to back up my, again, literature provided to us by the synthetic turf manufacturer, but also knowledge. We did a project at Framingham State College, and we designed the field in a floodplain, and it's flooded 2 or 3 times since it's been installed, with zero migration of the river.
I have a question on this project. This project is proposed under 310 CMR 1058.5 as a redevelopment project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And looking at those regulations, absent mitigation or restoration, that one of the performance standards is that the area of proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area. And degraded area is referenced above when it says a previously developed riverfront area contains areas degraded prior to August 7, 1996 by impervious surfaces from existing structures or pavement, absence of topsoil, junkyards, or abandoned dumping grounds. So if I remember correctly, the impervious surfaces or degraded areas in your NOI, I think it was 0.15 of an acre.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that none of this is work? That the removal of topsoil and turf is not work? Because otherwise, it seems like unless you're doing something else, which is possible to do under regulations, you're limited in your work on this site to that 0.15 of an acre.
Right. How we've handled and have had success in working in riverfront areas with synthetic turf in the past is that we consider it actual improvement on natural turf. Specifically the type of natural turf that's maintained as rigorously as this natural turf in terms of fertilizers, pesticides. So our argument is that your post conditions, this synthetic turf field is not degraded area, it's actually an improvement. And that's how we've applied in the past.
I guess is that the thing is that the improvement over existing conditions, it says work to redevelop previously developed riverfront areas, and other members of the commission, Mason, if I'm deep in the weeds here, please stop me.
Well, you're heading that way.
Shall conform to the following criteria. And then the first one is, at a minimum, proposed work shall result in improvement over existing conditions of the capacity of the riverfront area to protect the interests identified in MGL 13140. And I understand that that you're making this argument that there'll be no gasoline,
right,
though it's going to have to be vacuumed, correct?
Not
surface.
Not vacuumed. It's swept.
Okay, swept.
It's a tow behind machine.
Okay, so there will still be power equipment going back and forth.
Correct.
It just won't be a mower blade; it'll be a vacuum.
And much less frequently.
Okay. There still may be a need to use water to cool the surface. But even taking into account that the argument that the turf is going to be an improvement, the size of the proposed work, that's a completely separate requirement. And I remember being at a conference where Mark Simpson from DEP stood up and said, you know, if you have concrete paths, that's all you get. You know, if it's concrete paths surrounded by grass, you don't get to take advantage of the fact that the paths surround a larger area. You really get what is degraded by impervious. And I know that it's a hard-fought issue because I know that DEP sometimes goes in as challenged on the existence of topsoil. And clearly, if there's grass growing there, that's not impervious surface. So I guess I'm just laying that out there.
Well, you are allowed through restoration or mitigation to exceed the amount that's degraded.
Exactly.
Right, I think that's required.
F and G, well, I understand. I mean, F and G go on to say when the applicant proposes restoration on-site of degraded riverfront area, alteration may be allowed at a ratio of 1 to 1.
Right.
But that would mean that they would have to, if they pulled up all of their path, their 1/1500ths of an acre, that they would be allowed 1/1500ths of an acre.
Well, you can go beyond that through
You can go to
mitigation.
2 to 1. You go to 2 to 1.
Yeah,
Right.
mitigation, right.
Through mitigation, and that gets you to
That you can even do it in another section of town. It doesn't
right,
have to be
right.
the same.
But I guess just that throwing that out there, I've only heard improvement of existing conditions on site. I haven't heard something that gets you into F and G.
Are you in effect saying that the existing field is a degraded area?
No,
No, she's
No,
not.
saying
That's
that's
the
the
point.
no.
You are.
But
Basically what you're saying is it's a resource improvement. But, and you can do a project as a resource improvement if the commission determines, let me see, page 82 says a resource improvement. Give me a second.
right, I think, I guess in summary, our argument, again, which we've argued in the past, and every commission has different opinions, certainly, is that although absent of topsoil, not being present at that conference, this is not degraded. It's actually an improvement.
It's
So
altered, but it's not degraded.
No, but what I'm saying is you can't change. I mean, you can't do work in a riverfront area. You can't do alteration, which is cutting grass is alteration. I mean, you can't do it. That's from the DEP.
Well, it depends. If it's lawn, no. They don't consider lawn mowing in other words, DEP makes a special thing in there that says mowing your lawn is not alteration.
I think we need strip.
In this case, what I'm saying is that I'm not talking about the post-construction conditions. I'm talking about what they are able to do within riverfront. And when you're within riverfront, when you're doing a redevelopment project, you're limited to what is already previously degraded.
Unless you do mitigation.
Unless you do mitigation or other restoration.
And it could even be.
Which I haven't heard.
Or if you're doing a resource area improvement, it says, notwithstanding the provisions of 310 CMR 1054 through 1058, 1058 being riverfront,
Right.
the issuing authority may issue an order of conditions for projects which will improve the natural capacity of a resource area to protect the interests identified in Wetlands Protection Act. However, no such project may be permitted which will have an adverse effect on specified wildlife habitat sites of rare vertebrate or invertebrate species as identified under Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. And such projects include but are not limited to like removal of aquatic nuisance vegetation, thinning or planting of vegetation to improve habitat value, etc. So if the commission were to decide that this is an improvement over the resource area capacity, then this could be allowed, but it wouldn't be under a redevelopment project. Or the commission could potentially allow it under redevelopment, but under F and G.
Did you guys, I'm really sorry, I didn't read your report again. Do you guys actually have some figures to tell us that this is an improvement?
We have a discussion on why we think it's an improvement, yes.
But are there figures, like real, like we can say, if you leave it the way it is, you get this much, whatever.
What did we get for DEP comments on this? It's been so long ago.
I think I have the DEP.
Yeah, there were comments on drainage, and I think they had a similar question as to why.
Right.
There's two different applications under the wetland protection. Redevelopment, and then you're allowed, if it's property owned
Up to 5,000.
prior to a certain date, 5,000 or 10% of the project's riverfront area.
So
I don't have our response letter, but give me a second.
I have the response letter.
Yeah, I have the response letter.
Basically, it was you were showing how you meet the actual performance standards of the riverfront by eliminating fertilizer, pesticide, and herbicide applications, complying with Massachusetts stormwater standards for discharges to the Mill River, no work closer than existing disturbed areas. The rest of them are just stormwater questions.
But we don't know how much fertilizer, how much is actually not going into the river if you don't have, natural grass. Is that?
But I'm sure that's going to quantify that number.
In terms of their application
Right,
rates.
amount. And
I want to know if it's worth. I'm not totally sold on this yet.
On it being an improvement.
Yeah. Not convinced yet. I'm not convinced that I would like to see a letter from the college at Framingham that says, yeah, we've been flooded out and we didn't have to buy any more of those little, granular things. I've been in 3 big floods and I've never seen that.
Do you have an alternative analysis as required by the riverfront?
We did include that with our.
I mean, there's an alternative analysis to why the field has to be bigger. But I don't.
We did look at other options, moving the site in this front portion here.
That part doesn't bother me. I'm very pleased that you.
I don't see an alternative analysis addressing specifically the
that's outside of Riverfront.
Right.
riverfront area.
What?
If they're
parking
moving,
The area.
I know, but okay,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
outside Riverfront, but at least I think they did a good
It's a good
job
project.
dealing
Good
with. That doesn't bother me. I think that was a good effort. I'm just not sure about the one right there. Mason, did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
If you read it.
I still don't see the alternative analysis under the riverfront area for the work that's performed in the riverfront.
It has before. It's
The alternative analysis as for why you
there's no
need the
good
field,
alternative.
why you need the field.
Well, that's.
But I don't see where you go step by step, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And then, I don't think that's one after H, through the riverfront area redevelopment, formula there. If you go to that section in the Wetlands Act, it starts off, A, has to be an improvement, B, so-and-so, and I don't see that itemized.
In terms of being spelled out by letter of.
Yeah, normally you would run right through each one of those and say where your project meets or is better than that, and if it can't meet this, then we've gone to F and G where we've done mitigation somewhere, and I don't see that in this notice of intent unless you sent something in the meantime.
No,
This is-
no, we did not.
This is December 2008, so I don't see the alternative analysis in here.
I guess are you asking specifically why we submitted under that particular portion of the versus
Well,
I mean, the request to disturb that percentage that I talked about previously?
no, I was, the point of my question was that if, and the letter from DEP and then your response seems to say that this project was under 1058.5, then my next thing is to do what Mason just said, which is to look at the performance standards under 1058.5, and they're spelled out one after the other. I can say A, you have given evidence that you're improving existing conditions. B, stormwater management is provided according to standards established by the department.
I think they've done,
That's
I
right.
don't know if they've done that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I said, presented evidence. B, stormwater management, within the 200-foot riverfront, and then C, it's not located closer than existing conditions or 100 feet, whichever is less. And you said in your letter, no work closer than existing conditions.
Is all that in the letter, because it's not in the notice of intent?
In the response to the DEP letter, they do.
Okay,
That's where they.
I don't have that, so don't know why I don't have it,
Where
I have it.
D, proposed work including expansion of existing structures shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the boundary and away from the river, except in accordance with F and G, which are below. But when I get to E is where I have my first significant, where I don't see how this project can jump the hurdle, which is the area of proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area. And again, going with degraded areas being those bituminous paths that are around there, that really seems to limit what proposed work you can do. Of course, F and G come next, and F and G allow you to get around that. And I just haven't seen anything. Well, they allow you to get they allow you to get around it 1 to 1 or 2 to 1.
2 to 1 or 1 to 1.
1 to 1 or 2 to 1.
This would exceed that.
Right.
Would exceed 2 to 1.
No,
Could be up to
No.
Yeah, unless they went off-site
least.
and
least.
actually restored a degraded
True.
section of
right.
the same riverfront, then they could go with a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
And they could actually build the Taj Mahal according to Fowles. Or 2-to-1 mitigation if they don't have a site that could be restored.
Right.
Kevin?
Sure, we've not, please,
Non-public comment.
not public comment time yet.
Okay.
What I'm wondering is, do we have enough information on which to proceed, or do we need additional information
Well,
from the applicant?
yeah, I think I'd like to see the riverfront
My
alternative
understanding
analysis embellished a little bit and go over the redevelopment criteria to convince me that this is indeed a redevelopment project.
Right, and specifically items E, F, and G.
Well,
And A.
go right down the list.
Well, really, it's G, and I think is what it comes down to, because E, you exceed E and F, but G would allow you to exceed E and F if you show that you're showing mitigation of at least 2 to 1.
And you changed the detention basin, so you, I assume, have a new detail sheet.
Yes, and that was provided.
When was that provided?
I got it today.
Oh,
It was
so we don't have a copy of it.
Right.
Individual members don't have a
no,
copy of
this.
that.
This was something we worked out again through Doug
Doug
McDonald's
McDonald,
office.
right, okay.
Um,
We would need a copy of that to look at, so
Sure.
we could make it, right? I mean, it's part of the package.
Yes, if you want copies of everything, yes, I'm sure they can provide.
I don't know that they need 9, we don't, or 7, we don't need 7, so just a couple copies would be good.
We have one for the file, and I assumed that it was going to be, it's here to be presented tonight, so.
I can leave these drawings with you, the revised drainage plan of the
Even if
revised.
they gave us to us in
11 by 17.
yeah, 11 by 17 would be fine, as long as we have something that we can vote on and refer to.
Right.
I mean, I can't see the detail from here. My glasses aren't that great.
So it seems we're going to have to continue this and ask the applicant for more complete information in the application. Is there anything else other than what we've mentioned that we want to see from the applicant that we don't already have?
Well, I have a comment.
Because you pointed out in what constitutes improvement question. Is there, from other schools that have installed this, is there
Well, that had to do with flooding. I'm not
whether it's
completely
flooding
convinced.
or some performance documentation that it's, so your assertion that this represents improved conditions.
In the resource area, in terms of, which I think we defined in that letter, in terms of application of the herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers,
Right,
etc.
but
Currently are outflowing to the river.
and that there should be some way to quantify that, so that we actually say, yes,
You
this
should
is,
say,
this
yeah,
is
here,
good.
we've got this, I can put this on, that would be great.
Should the commission have the discussion as to whether or not this could be proposed as a resource area improvement? Because if it's proposed as a redevelopment project in the riverfront area, then the applicant would have to provide at least 2-to-1 mitigation for this project. If it's proposed as a resource area improvement, then the applicant wouldn't have to provide a 2-to-1 mitigation area. So that, to me, as an applicant, would be an
Yes.
interest.
To me, that seems like that's the applicant's choice.
That is the
Right.
applicant's
The
choice,
applicant chooses.
but I suppose since we're here and we have them in front of us, maybe that's the discussion to be had.
But normally that's like a habitat improvement.
That's normally a habitat improvement, but, I'm saying, on behalf of the applicant, I guess.
I realize.
I'm just opening it up, playing the devil's advocate here, and if it were to come back for us and then we were to say, no, this is not a resource habitat, we would have wasted another meeting. So,
Right, that's what I want to avoid is incremental improvements in the information without ever getting enough to take an action.
right,
And would it make a difference, for instance, if the applicant was able to document, oh yeah, we have a completely compacted, effectively impervious surface presently, and on which a certain amount of chemicals get dumped for maintaining the lawns, et cetera, and afterwards, here's what we can document for flow, here's what we can document as the absence of those chemicals. Then we'd have some quantifiable differences to look at. Is that a fair? And then we'd be looking at improvement, right? Because we'd say, okay, you have a functionally impervious surface going to a functionally pervious surface. Even though it's not habitat improvement per se, it's nonetheless an improvement.
I guess that's where I'm going, but it makes sense to have that discussion.
If it's not going to matter what it comes up with, we shouldn't have to go
It
through it.
doesn't matter if Mason completely believes it has to be a habitat improvement, then, and convinces everybody else, then I don't see the reason for them to come back with that.
Right.
And they should come back with a mitigation plan.
And as far as the floodplain question, they're technically out of the 100-year floodplain.
That's
That's
correct.
correct.
They're in the 500-year floodplain.
But they are in the riverfront area.
Right.
So, it is a soccer field that has stormwater controls, a resource area improvement over an existing soccer field that's grass. I guess that's the question.
And that was our argument as part of our, application and our compliance with
That's why I bring it up.
Riverfront Protection Area, is that we are improving And we can, I just asked the college, we can certainly provide you what their current application rate is for fertilizer.
And pesticide,
And pesticides.
Danny?
I think it's, the applicant can present both, they can argue for.
Whatever they think their best case is.
Well, they can argue for both, right? They can argue for both. They can say this is an improvement of conditions, permitted under 1053-4 is an improvement, and we can say yes or no. And they can also, they can provide a mitigation or restoration plan. If they stop where they are though, I don't see how they can get through the redevelopment performance criteria. So, then I would be left with the decision of basically saying, I'm going to vote for this project only under 1053-4 as an improvement. And I think that Paul at least has expressed that, and I agree with him, that we need to see some, the presumption is against the project. The evidence has to be presented that this is, an improvement, so.
Sure, and our only question would be, what additional information, is it specifically the fertilizing rate and the pesticide rate, or are there other items that you, for example, our comment that we're increasing infiltration significantly, recharge to groundwater?
Yeah,
Any and all this.
anything that was gonna make it improved.
Which
how is it gonna be?
I believe we provided in our original application, and
Well, I just want to,
not the fertilizer rate.
no, I know, but I don't know. Okay.
The other thing I'd like to see would be the maintenance that will be done on the field, on the artificial turf after it's installed, because these are not no maintenance structures.
No, I'm
There's,
not implying.
I've read about fabric softener being applied for static. I read it was actually presented at an artificial turf or athletic directors conference where they specified a ton of the rubber pellets being added each year.
Which means they have to go.
Which means they're going somewhere. They're going somewhere.
They have to go somewhere.
They have to go somewhere. Either they're turning into dust and blowing away, which may be the case. But I just need to see. Also, there's issues of infection control. There was, MRSA associated with some artificial turfs. Again, the manufacturers say not our product. But people are going to bleed. They're going to sweat. You're going to want to have some control of those issues. And so I want to see that laid out pretty extensively, because if you can't just say, well, the fertilizer will go away and not tell me about what's coming. So that's I'd like to have that information in front of me if I'm going to say either this is an improvement or either under 1053 or under 1058.
And would that include water as well, water use?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If the fields are going to be, if these fields are going to be used during the summer, and I've seen numbers, if the fields are going to be used even during hot weather, I've seen numbers of 50 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit above turf fields. So they need to be watered, especially if they're in direct sun. So
I would disagree with that based on surveys that we've done with our clients.
bring me the again.
Great.
Bring me the numbers and put them in front of me, and I'm happy to see them. But I do know that the new turf field is not going to be a no. And again, the issue of vacuuming.
We're not implying that it's a maintenance.
Well, just that again, the vacuuming is something that was we won't have to run lawnmowers, so there won't be gasoline used, but you're going to run vacuum over it. It's going to be raked. You're going to, again, it's fresh. Oh, I'm sorry, right.
It's right. It's just a.
But it's still a mechanical.
Not by saying it is. Not by hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So you're saying you have two options to meet 1053-4 or 1058 redevelopment, which would 1053-4 would be an improvement. 1058 redevelopment would be mitigation.
You'd have to go down the steps.
You'd have to meet those steps minus E and F, which are not attainable, but G would make that a doable. Sure.
It also might improve the decrease in the Japanese beetle population depending on the time of hatching.
Oh, the growth,
When they first put this turf down in Westfield, it was just literally covered with Japanese beetles that were attracted to the glue. And they had to go out and get some special vacuum and vacuum all these dead beetles up because they all landed in the field and they died from the fumes from the...
So feel free to present data on
I have no
pest control. Do you have any papers on that?
I have
Any other?
yeah, I have a comment. This is not really directed towards you. It's really directed to the gentleman from Smith, and that has to do with it's a comment, and it's out of our purview, but I'll just bring it up because it's occurred to me. Smith has made a commitment to sustainability, and eventually, according to one of the representatives, I'm not sure it was you, from the company, this turf wears out and it gets thrown away. It gets chucked into the landfill, and I'm not totally convinced that this is a great sustainability maneuver here. I'm not even certain that it's going to cost you less, but I won't argue that. Like I said, this is out of our purview, and I'm just making this comment.
It's a reasonable observation.
So, and then you're going to be stuck with it, and then in 12 years or 15 years when it wears out, you have to do it all over again, and you have to, and then, you know.
Can you insulate Smith's buildings with rubber?
Can I get a motion to continue, please? When's the next meeting? How much time do you need?
The particular turf product that we use is created with recycled products.
I know, but then,
including the infill.
and that's great. It's just that then,
Maybe they could become tires again.
I guess I do need one piece of additional clarity, because I am very unclear, with the exception of 1 or 2 items here, whether what we are providing you, or whether what we are providing you is going to take us any further down the road.
Right.
And I don't want to waste your time.
we don't
We don't want to waste
and
yours.
with going someplace which is not going to further the application. So I guess what I'm asking for is a little bit more clarity other than answering the 3 questions that I have out there in front that I made note of. Is there some other information specifically that you all are going to ask that in your minds, if answered appropriately, would allow us to keep going? Otherwise, I can see us doing this.
Not mine, I just want to see the conditions for the riverfront area satisfied, or...
Or at least
explain. Right, we're gonna, I'm sure that we're going to reapply under 1053 for that. We're confident that it's an improvement to the resource area.
So we just need that quantification of that.
Which includes information on their existing, for the maintenance program, if you will, versus what the future maintenance program will be.
Is this Sport X 50 turf? Is that
correct? Yes.
And just provide us with
Well, no, I was just gonna, it's sort of ironic, but I'm not gonna be here next time, so, it's.
it's one less detail sheet you have to give us.
No, I'm just saying that, if I were to be here, then I wouldn't nix the project just because, but I just, a paragraph of saying, well, this is an improvement, because I agree with Downey, it hasn't been carried through. There's more to the project than just tearing up the grass and then putting in your proposed project. You're going to use it, and you're going to, that's going to require some added inputs. And so,
And I think
a table that said, here's what you have now, there's grass, here's what you've gotten, after we're done, and this is what we can expect for the life of the material.
On a yearly basis.
Yeah, on a yearly basis, yeah. And so that was missing, I think. But
But
So-
it can only be on a yearly basis. because
Right, I understand, no, I understand, so, and I don't even know, maybe this stuff breaks down, so by year 10, you can still use it, but maybe something happens, I don't know, that,
Actually becomes the subbase for the next layer.
does it?
Right.
Okay, I don't know.
Making that up.
Actually,
Okay,
But-
alright, but
So
so,
I think you can tell that we're gonna take pretty seriously the criteria
Of the improvement.
which,
Sure. Argument, yeah.
and there needs to be quantifiable evidence and so forth. As Stanley says, the presumption is that the burden of proof is with you
that
guys
was
to
clear,
say, hey, this
Jeff.
is an improvement.
I don't want,
no,
you're
I
saying I don't want
understand,
to
and
spend anybody's
that's a fair,
time without making progress.
I do have one more specific thing that would sort of from Paul's lame duck comment, which is,
Thanks.
it is really significant how much, to me at least, how much work is going to have to be done in 10 years, let's say, when, like, how much disturbance is going to happen when the turf is rolled up? Is it just you take up the membrane and roll down a new membrane?
Yes.
Okay, so if you
That should be an answer.
and again, I'd like to know, is heavy equipment involved? I mean, do you just have a crew roll it up? Because again, that goes in the calculation. That doesn't necessarily have to be done for the natural turf field, but that's going to be being done 10 years, right?
or whatever.
Every 10 or 15 years for good. So that I think that's got to be approached.
To follow along with that, did you discuss a maintenance schedule with Mr. McDonald
For what?
for maintaining the?
Of the stormwater system, yes, but not the maintenance of the turf.
No, that's what I meant,
Right.
stormwater.
Yes, we provide an operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater system.
When's the
Do you
next
wanna
meeting?
ask for comment?
Do you want comments from the public?
This gentleman
Actually, I have
here.
a quick question too. Just looking at this resource area improvement, and it addresses these 8 interests in the Wetlands Protection Act, I think it would have to be pretty convincing to say this is a resource area improvement. Just reiterating that fact, because if you look at this, at these 8 interests, it's not going to improve wildlife habitat or fisheries or shellfish. When you talk about pollution, you're talking about not using pesticides or herbicides. I mean, the other alternative is not to use pesticides or herbicides, right? I mean, so a resource area improvement would, just stopping using herbicides and pesticides would be an improvement, I guess. But would this project be an improvement over that area if you had stopped using them anyway? Or if you were not using them? It's not a guarantee that you're going to use, that you have the right to use herbicides and pesticides, I guess.
Except if they don't use, at least,
It'll be dirt.
Well, but if
yeah,
herbicide-
they don't use fertilizer at least.
But if it had
They
been an
won't
open
be.
field, right, that
Yeah.
people had used,
It's true.
you're setting a precedent. And I guess what I'm reiterating is that it should be a strong argument that it's an improvement upon a resource area, not just an
I suspect
improvement
that
upon a
message has
resource
gotten
area
across.
that is being covered with herbicides and pesticides.
Yeah, to the extent that the herbicides and pesticides are ending up in the surface waters, that's probably also already a violation of this law anyway.
Well,
Right, I mean, and it's, so to say that we're not doing that is,
I think it's doable. I just think that it should be. One thing that comes to mind, and I said this during the first meeting, was if you had some sort of basin on your outlet and it had a valve on it, and you were to have, in the future you're going to have to clean this at some point. Somebody pukes on it or bleeds on it, you're probably going to have to wash it out. If you had a valve and you could put that into an underground basin and then pump that out into something instead of pumping it directly into the river, that seems like an improvement. Otherwise, what you're spraying and cleaning, your cleaning solution, your anti-static, whatever it is going to go right into the river. It's not going to be absorbed by rubber, most likely.
Right,
It
and
melts the rubber.
what we'll argue is the fabric softener thing are completely unnecessary.
Right.
And I'm sure, talking to our client, they'd be happy to provide a statement saying that they're not gonna put fabric softener on the field.
Well, I'm sure they have green fabric softeners out by now.
Okay, well, so you've given enough feedback to the applicant? Sorry, sir, did you want to make a comment?
Yes. Another comment, more of a question. Mike Kirby, 17 Summer Street. When I look at the application, it is on the first page, I think, of the statement, they have a map, and there is the small map of the floodplain, and it shows the target area in the 500-year floodplain.
Right.
And I looked at it, and from walking the field and from knowing the terrain pretty well, the map, FEMA map, didn't make any sense. And I called FEMA, and I said, when was this map made? And they weren't sure, but they think it was the early 80s.
No, it was April 3rd, 1978.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says it right on the
It's
map.
on the map.
Oh,
It's on
okay,
the-
1978. And my question is, I was looking at an improvement. Has there been, in fact, a project happen between the FEMA map being made and the time that this is being considered? Because if you look at the terrain, it's actually flat as a billiards table. And the highest point in the field is 136, I think, or 137 feet. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but the 100-year flood is 133 to 134, so you're well above that.
Well,
They're out of the 100-foot,
100-year.
100-year floodplain.
the 100-year floodplain shows the water up at the 145-foot level, elevation level on this side, and shows it topping the berm that surrounds this area. See, I'll just close with this and be brief. My feeling is that there was originally a lot more earth on this particular area, and that this was a sloped hill. And the slope is shown here across. And in fact, most of this thing is within the 100-year floodplain. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? When's the date of our next meeting, please?
It's April 23rd.
So we're skipping that, we skipped the early April meeting. Is that good enough timing for preparation?
That should be more than enough time. Yeah, my boss will I probably will not be here. My boss will be in the tank, so I have a PE
Can
exam
we
the next
get a
day.
motion to continue?
Move to continue to April 23rd.
5:30
5:30.
in this room.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted.
So,
We'll get you that information. For comment.
You ship it to me.
we're gonna have a problem with, we're not gonna have enough people to vote on this on April 23rd.
I just went over it again.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Because Mason you weren't here for the original meeting.
Yeah, but you just redid the thing at the beginning of the meeting because it's been so long.
This is a low trick.
So we'll keep you here for, how about till the 23rd?
Yeah.
In other words, the way around that was to present the project.
We could re-advertise it. But if,
I think you better do it.
I mean, I am.
Can you guys make a motion that he's acceptable to vote for that?
It's not us.
well, you stay on until you're replaced. That's what our charter says.
And I talked to the mayor yesterday. She has a replacement in mind, but not it's not gonna be next time, it'll be probably the time after that.
Replacement hasn't been born yet.
What's that? I won't leave you that much.
Downey said he probably won't be here.
I didn't find an essential vote.
I mean, I'll go over your previous notes, if that's what you want, but
Do we have,
If the four of you are here, all four of you can vote on this.
I'm very familiar with the project just from going over it tonight. It's not a huge project.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mason can't vote on this, but, will you,
We need Paul.
I understand you're familiar with it, but you missed the meeting and
Yeah, but if you just heard the read,
it's not how the law, that's not what the law states.
you gotta get.
Well, the law states I can look over the
Previous
minutes.
meeting minutes?
It doesn't, no, it doesn't.
No,
Thought
not
it
unless
was-
they're not
unless they're
recorded.
verbatim minutes.
That's it.
Yeah, we need a transcript or we need a,
audio?
What was the meeting that was missed?
But I don't think.
that's not an official, transcript or audio or video.
You have to adopt the language in your charter too, and I don't
They
think.
did.
We have,
This is what I found out.
City Council has adopted it, we haven't used it yet, and that, although I do appreciate watching myself on Friday mornings, that's not an official review of the actual meeting.
Alright, that's my understanding.
So what
That
does
you have to actually have been here.
So,
What are they supposed to
either we can,
But Paul, can we get you to come to the additional meeting
It
since you're
doesn't matter,
replacement?
it doesn't matter if Downey's
If
not
I-
here,
Yeah, it's not here.
it still doesn't matter, because there's not enough. Yes, you could have, but, so, do we need another meeting? Why aren't we meeting in the middle of
Yeah,
April?
if I may ask.
Passover.
Passover is that week.
Well, should we have a meeting the third week, or whatever?
We can hold a meeting if you,
All you
I-
need is
I
a
would
quorum
be
of a
available.
quorum.
So that's the previous, or the, when would that, what's the next meeting?
The ninth, it would be the ninth. We're not having the ninth, so it would be the 16th.
we can do the 16th if you.
Is that okay?
I can make it.
No idea, probably.
Can you make that?
Quick poll, everybody, the house is 16.
I think it's okay.
Mason?
Want to do that?
Well, I can't vote anyways,
Oh,
Yes,
that's
it
right.
doesn't matter.
much as I'd like to, I mean, I think it's.
So, 16?
So we better,
And this we hear to.
Okay, so April 16th at 5:30 in this room. I can't promise it's in this room, but we'll schedule it for that as of now. We may have to hold it next door.
just because it might be.
Just to reiterate, yeah, how many copies of that, what I submitted to you, what you received today?
If you can just give me one large copy or one full set, and then if you can do 11 by 16s for the rest of the petition members. So that, I guess we really only need 4.
So one, if you want a full-size set of
Of it?
the entire plan set? With the
Yes,
revised plans?
if anything changes. Otherwise, I have what you gave I received in the mail today. So if you do have any changes, then I will want one full-size set.
The plans won't change, but I'll get you a full set with all the final revised plans in one set. And then 4 half-size?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
I think about changing
What's that?
it. Mason understands this project as well as anybody else. After this, it really is.
I didn't make the rule.
I know you didn't make the rule. I'm just saying we got to think about changing it because I thought that you could.
State law.
I thought that's what the state said.
No,
If
but I thought that it could be.
you represented it or you looked at all the,
Represented, right? Straight from the beginning, and that's not how it was. It was advertised, or it's wasn't the intent when they came here.
I know, but I thought that
I
the
mean-
town, the city could, whatever, not amend it, but or just.
But we could adopt the rule.
Yeah.
through our board, since city council has passed that rule, but we would have to either provide an audio, video, or a verbatim transcript of our meeting for someone to review.
You need to have all those,
One of the above.
or whatever, yeah, that's what I mean.
Set any number?
You can only miss
You can only
one.
miss
Just
one.
one, yeah, so it's, wouldn't solve it.
Wouldn't solve most of our issues anyway.
Next item, discussion of a notice of intent filed by Tofino Associates and Northampton Homes for the construction of 25 dwelling units, associated roadways, parking areas, driveways, sidewalks, utilities, and landscaping, and stormwater management. Project is proposed to take place in a 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands. Location Northampton. As I understand this, this is just to accept the withdrawal of the project. Is that a fair statement? I mean, if you recall, in the last meeting, we had closed the hearing and were in discussions when the applicant requested to withdraw. I think that we were going to research, that was it possible to withdraw at that point? And it seems like the evidence is yes. And the laws are silent on this, so it's not no. And that, but that for propriety's sake, we should probably accept the request to withdraw rather than just passively have our discussion stop midair without any sense of closure.
Okay, move to accept withdrawal of the application for this project.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, Donnie, you were about to discuss?
Oh,
No, I mean, I guess, so there's no, city solicitor didn't give us any input on this, and.
No, I
DEP
talked to
accepted it.
I got the
Yeah.
DEP accepted it.
DEP accepted it, and I just talked to, I didn't need to go to the city solicitor, asked director of planning, and he said he has the right to withdraw. So,
does the applicant have the right to withdraw at any time?
according to DEP, the applicant has the right to withdraw anytime, even after we issue a permit.
Aye.
Aye, so unanimous. All opposed? So voted.
Thank you.